I'm Caroline Gidiere, and I'm an interior designer in Birmingham, Alabama, and this is Buttercup, and this is Sugar. The decision to become an interior decorator was kind of long in coming. I had a whole career, worked for a federal judge, worked for DOJ in DC. I just never stopped to think that I could do anything else. People started asking me to help them with their houses. Can you come pick a paint color? Can you help us figure out what to do with our front door, with our entry hall? My husband, Stephen, applied for all my business licenses and did all my paperwork to set up my business and wrapped it up and put it under the tree at Christmas. And when I opened it, he said, "It's time." I really wanted my house to look like the George Wythe house in Colonial Williamsburg because I grew up vacationing there. It had always been my favorite. We worked with James Carter, who was the architect on the house. He said, "No, you can't have that house because it's too blockish for your lot. You have to step it down. It has to step down. It cannot all be the same height. You don't want that." I was like, "Oh no, this is exactly what I want." And so he came back and had a rendering of the house with the arches. And it literally took my breath away. I was like, "Oh, yes, that's it. I know I said I wanted it to look just like the George Wythe house, but this is even better." So this is the dining room. Interestingly, when we built the house, I wanted the front of the house to be perfectly symmetrical. And I also told James Carter that I wanted a square dining room because I wanted a circular table. He came to me and said, "The best I can do is to make all these cabinets in the room. If you're okay with that, we can get it more square." And I was so excited that he had thought of that because they've really been wonderful. I love pattern. I love pattern, I love color. The more pattern, the better. But I do feel like there is an easy groove to the house, even though there's strong color and even though there's pattern. There is a passage, an undulating kind of passage through the house where we go from light to dark to palette cleansing to color and pattern, and it kind of weaves slowly. But one thing is true in all of the rooms. There's a lead fabric that is something that I had an emotional reaction to. So when you find a fabric that you're like, "Oh, I love that," those are the ones that you should start with. And then you just kind of work around it. Okay, so this is the master bedroom. This is the fabric that I had a tiny little swatch. I fell in love with it, but then when I got it, it read differently. So I wasn't exactly sure that I was going to feel the same way about it when I put it on the walls. But once it went up with the drapery, I've really loved it. And towards that, I kind of wanted a canopy bed, but felt like the room really wouldn't take it. So I did this overstuffed kind of Mario Boita tufted sleigh bed, and it's just the height of comfort. It's a great place to sit and read a book or needlepoint. I have a prized possession, and those are my Charlotte Perriand chairs that I found at the Marché aux Puces in Paris. And I stumbled upon a set of 5, and it was a price that I could afford. And I looked at the guy and asked him, like, "Okay, level with me, what's wrong with them? Are they not Charlotte Perriand?" He was like, "No, they are." I was like, "Well, is there something wrong with them?" And he was like, "Well, there's only 5. I was like, "Sold," and I love them, and I can't believe that I have them, and I would never, ever sell them. My favorite room in the house is the formal living room, the room that we're in right now. And that's probably because of the light. I love rooms with good light. So we kind of grown quite a botanical collection, and we started really with these two on either side of the fireplace that were Stephen's grandmother's In the late 30s and early 40s in New Orleans, she was given money by her mother-in-law to go down to the quarter and purchase furnishings for her first house with Stephen's grandfather. And these two pieces were amongst that. The slip-covered sofa is in a really, really old pattern called Bowood. I think it was taken from the Bowood Castle. My husband, Stephen, also had been asking for a secret room, and there was this little space back here between the guest bedroom on the other side and the living room. And so James said, well, let's just make fake books instead of a real bookshelf, and you can just have this little secret room. I started the design of this room not just with this fabric, but also with a lavender sofa. I just really kind of like the idea of a lavender sofa. It pairs well with this bold pattern. And then I got this poster of a Massimo Vitali, and it had the blues and the purples and the pinks and the orange. And I thought, oh, well, I should use blue in here too. And kind of went from there. And then I thought, well, the children's art is very colorful, and this would be a great place for them, because they spend so much time here, to display their art so that they could see it, enjoy it, and make them literally a part of this room. This is the same fabric from my bedroom, and I just had some left over, so I had some shades made. I decided to put this portiere here for two reasons. First is to balance the other drapery on the other side of this fireplace, but also with the portiere, in the winter, I keep these closed. This way, this room stays really warm and cozy in the winter, and there's probably a 15 to 20 degree difference. My hobby beyond decorating, once that became, the job, I love to cook. Stephen and I are kind of a good combination because he loves to garden. When we first started dating, Stephen showed up with a bag of topsoil on his shoulder and said, let's make a garden. He did vegetables and I did flowers, and then we cooked the vegetables. It's a good thing. So he gardens and I cook, and that's very relaxing to me. So Stephen's home, and hopefully he'll give us a tour of his garden out here.
Turned out to be a great afternoon. Glad to be home. Look, you can see the foxglove coming in, and the dahlia are down in there that'll come through later. Welcome to the greenhouse. This is where we start a lot of plants and keep a lot of plants. We've got all of our kitchen herbs that we grow over here. Starting some zinnias in here. These are my trees from Italy, from the seeds that we collected.
Really?
Yeah.
This is what houseplants look like after I've had a couple of weeks with them. And Stephen brings them out here and brings them back to life for me.
It's a full-time job, but glad to do it.